Hi, good morning friends. Then back again with another video. This time something that has been requested many number of times by a lot of people. What do you do when you do this and nothing comes on, or when you're on a ride and this has stopped working, the ignition system doesn't kick in? Most of the times what you will see happen is when you move the handlebar to your left and right extremes, you will see everything go off like that. Nothing will go off, nothing will work. I can't really demonstrate the exact same thing that happens, is because I have fixed the issue on mine, but the idea is, you get it. If you twist and turn your handlebar to your left and right, you will see that the entire power to the instrument cluster and pretty much the ignition, it would completely go off. There'll be absolutely no power coming in to the system, and your starter motor, your fuel pump, nothing would work. So this is devastating if you are on a ride. Not much of a problem if you have just stepped out of your homes and right around the corner this happens. But if you're on a long ride and this were to happen, this is going to be something that will be really worrying, and of course it will put you through a great deal of trauma and tension depending on how you take things. So the first thing that you should do when you're on a long ride all by your own and you see that the power goes off like that when you twist and turn the handlebar, what you should be doing is immediately, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your fuse or anything. What you should be doing is you should immediately look for the culprit is the ignition key and this particular module here, and the wires, the two wires that come out of the ignition key set. This is the sleeve. If you can see, you will be able to see two zip ties here, and there'll be two wires come out of the ignition key set inside the sleeve, and one or both the wires would have been stripped because of constant movement. You're moving around the handlebar all day long, and it's kind of a faulty design. They come out and they make a sharp turn here, and so you can expect them to get stripped here or right where they're zip tied. So well, that's the issue. What do you do now when something goes wrong, when you have wires stripped there? So the temporary fix is to cut the wires from the ignition key set, like get this fellow, chop it right here and connect both the ends together so that there is power running throughout, and you don't have to be worried about turning this on and off. This will just become a dummy. This will not work. But the only problem would be when you park your vehicle, you will not be able to kill the power. So what you do is the wires that you've joined together, you'll have to split them up again and see to it that one end is a little safe from the other. Move them quite a bit. See to it that they don't make any contact with the metal part of the motorcycle. Keep them split. Maybe if you can run electrical tape on one or both the ends, and then that solves the issue for you. But if you want a permanent fix, a permanent solution for the stripped wires right here, and then keep watching the video. So the permanent fix to something like this is, I don't know if you guys can see, the idea is to locate these screws underneath the ignition key set, and so get yourself a size 5 Allen key, get those screws out or those bolts out, one on each end, one on this side, and the other here. Right here, if you can see, I've already undone mine for the sake of the video. They're almost on the verge of coming out. So it's going to be a size 5 Allen key going into these bolts here, and undo both sides and pull this key set out. And there you go. That's one fella out. Likewise, do it on the other end and pull the key set out. Okay, so now what you do is you drop the key set through the sleeve of the T-stem or the triple clamp, and you need to twist your handlebar to one end to be able to do that comfortably, and then gently pull this out. Okay, so now what you see is, you see that this thing has a wire go into a socket here. You can see this is where my wire goes into a socket in there. So what you need to do is pull that particular socket out, and you can start working on the wires. Okay, so if you guys can see, I have split the rubber casing, and if you can see, this is the socket that I was referring to, these two. So all you need to do is press on this side and the other side comes loose. There you go. That easy. You need to release a tab by pressing here on the opposite side of the socket, and this comes loose. That's the key set. So hi friends, this is the lock and ignition module or key set that I just pulled out of the vehicle, and as you can see, mine is kind of running a different sleeve and a different wire, and there's a lot of patchwork here, so you understand what's happened. The thing is, this is where, right here is where you will see the wires get stripped. Now this is because of three main reasons. One is that the wires that come out of this particular key set are of very poor quality. They are a very heavy gauge, but they have a very poor insulation on the outside. So what happens is that with time, the insulation gets cracked, especially where you have them zip tied to the casing, and they develop a crack here, and the crack later develops into stripped wires. And what happens is, when you move your handlebar from left and right, the stripped wires may make contact, and when they make contact, you see the power come on. But then when you move to one extreme end, they split and you lose power. So that is that's exactly what would have happened with most of you who would have faced this issue, and that's how you get to know that it's the key set in question here and nothing else. No fuse being blown or anything else for that matter. So that being said, the second reason why this happens is why you have stripped threads, stripped wires happening here is because if you know the orientation of the key set, it's like this on your triple clamp, and what happens is that the wires have to come out from the bottom and make a sharp U-turn here. So this is kind of a bad design thing going on in here. This cannot be attributed to the quality of the products or the material being used. It's sheer bad design, bad thought. So That being said, another major reason why you have stripped wires happening here is because of this sharp U-turn that these wires are forced to go through. The third reason why this happens is because there's constant stretch that these wires experience. And every time when you have these wires stretched and you twist and turn your handlebar, again there'll be a lot of tension and pressure here, and the chances of wire stripping becomes higher. Another thing that I've noticed is first the wires have poor insulation, and then later you have a very poor low quality sleeve running through, and you zip tie them really tightly and firmly to the housing or the casing here, and right where the zip ties are, you will find cracks develop. That's also because of very poor sleeve quality. There you go. I have stripped one successfully, the head of it, and my screwdriver spins freely, so I'm not able to pull that one out. What you will see is two wires come in like that, and they will be fixed to a plastic plate or a kind of a plate with on two ends. You will have them soldered on both the ends. So 99% of the times when you have this issue in your key set, you will not have the wire soldered ends come out. You will only have the wires getting stripped here, right about here. The soldered ends will remain intact. So what you should do is you should try and get rid of, remove the solder with a soldering iron. This is a soldering iron. So a soldering iron, along with the soldering iron, you need to get some flux here. This also is something which is important when you solder. How to go about soldering, there are like hundreds of videos online for you to take as reference and do it yourself. And then you need lead. So there's lead, soldering iron, and flux. You should be able to find a lot of videos online on how to go about soldering things, and that's not a big job. That's pretty easy. So solder, get the wires that are from the factory that are soldered onto this plate. Inside this particular casing, you'll find a plate. You'll find two wires soldered on both the ends. Remove the solders, take those two wires out and ditch them. Don't throw them off completely. You need the other side of the wire, is because this casing has the other ends. I'll talk to you about it in a while. So what I did here was I took two flexible wires. So what I did here was I took two new wires which are not as heavy gauge as the ones that come out from the factory. These are far more flexible, and what I did was I soldered both the ends to the soldering points, the junctions, and then I ran them out through a sleeve. And now I'll just show to you what I did. So the best thing to do is to get yourself higher quality, a little more flexible wire, and then solder it to the two ends here. Pull them out, add an additional sleeve. This is a sleeve, it's a plastic sleeve, and you get these in almost all the electrical shops. You get this in various diameters. So I got myself something like a 1/4 inch diameter, and I ran the two wires through the sleeve, and ran a zip tie, two zip ties just to be doubly sure. I ran two zip ties here and fastened it to the casing, And what you see here is the yellow wires go into the stock factory wires, is because the factory wires run into this coupler. So the quickest and the most easiest thing for you to do is fix the problem here and kind of get these two wires out till here and join them to the stock factory wires. So hi back guys, I was just trying to demonstrate the whole thing, so I stripped everything out and I'm doing it up again. So what you see me do here is I'm trying to attach these two wires to the stock wires that run into this coupler. You do need a bit of the stock wires that run into this couplers, because replicating this setup here is how do I say, you need the right brackets. I don't know what to call these things. You need replicating this portion is going to be very difficult. So not very difficult, it depends on the kind of skills that you possess. But the easier thing, or the simpler thing to go to do is to attach the new wires that you've managed to solder to this particular housing to your stock factory. And so that's what you see me do here. I have managed to twist a decent amount of wire together, and what you see me do here is twist a bit of the other end like that. Hope you guys can see what's happening, what's going on here. So that's the whole setup. Now once that is done, you can start taping things. Yeah, so the rest of the job is to run an electrical tape around the whole thing. And that's the whole of it. Zip tied the part where I had joined the wires together for reinforcement, and that's the whole of it. Now going to be putting this back on the machine, and I'll get back to you in some time. Yeah, so there you go guys. As you can see, that's the wire I managed to fix. It's from, you can see, yeah. So that's the wire that goes into a coupler here, and that's the ignition for you. All done. Fix the ignition key set with the two bolts here and here, and for you to see now, you can twist and turn the handlebars and nothing happens. So that's how you go about fixing the ignition key set. So that was that. Fix the ignition key set. And if this helps any of you guys, any of you who are on the verge of stripping their wires, all you need to do is just bend down and have a look at it, and you will be able to get a good idea of whether you should be addressing that issue right away or maybe in some time. But all said and done, it's a small deal. It's not as big as it sounds. Of course, it's catastrophic when you're riding, and especially if you're doing cornering and you suddenly lose ignition, you suddenly lose power. That can be extremely dangerous. So if you ask me, the best thing to do is just peep in, have a look at those two wires. If they are looking good, leave it the way it is. And if that isn't the case, if you see them starting to strip, you will see a bit of the red wire, and the insulation kind of cracking. So if you know that it's starting to crack, if you see that it's starting to crack, you can know that it's going to get worse with time. So the best thing to do is go about fixing it the way you just saw me fix it now. And well, that's that. Hope this proves to be helpful. Of course, it's a bit tricky to get into all of this and um, do a good job in the end, but the truth is, if you keep calm, if you go slow with this, if you just don't develop a lot of anxiety, this ought to be a very simple affair. It's not as difficult as how it may seem. So give it a shot, and help yourselves. See you soon on another vlog, on another video. If you like the content, kindly subscribe to the channel and share these videos. That's how best I think you guys will be acknowledging my work. So kindly share these videos and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you soon.